Okay, so we're going to set up a chat assistant just to book appointments and qualify. Super easy, and I will include a document um, to be able to use the prompts that I have in here. So as far as prerequisites is, we need a calendar in GoHighLevel. Any type should be fine. Event, round robin, whatever you typically use should work well. But it needs to be active, needs to be good to go, all that fun stuff here. And I'm going to, for this example, use this testing calendar. The other prerequisite, if you don't already have it, phone number or whatever you're going to use in your client acquisition system as a medium to talk with your leads. And once all this stuff in GoHighLevel is set up, then we're good to go to build our AI. So I'm going to use this testing calendar as an example, and then we will go to our AI builder, our custom menu link here. Okay. Just to build the AI, we will not worry about any of these other tabs right here or the conversations right now. The only thing that we're going to focus on right now is knowledge, assistance, and active tags. These are the three parts that make up a very well created AI that should get you to the point of booking more appointments on autopilot. So I'm going to start, and we're going to go to knowledge base, and I'm going to create a knowledge base. And so this is just for this example, I'll just call this the name of my business is fine. All right. So I have this here. So this is my knowledge base. And so what I can do here in my knowledge base is I can add knowledge about my business, whether that's a file, whether I scrape a URL, or whether that's a text file, to embed basically into the assistant's brain, its memory. So if I'm able to embed FAQs, objection rebuttal, anything that that would make my AI powerful to where even though AI on its own can handle most, if not all, of those use cases, if I want to get a little bit more specific about how it handles an FAQ, certain knowledge about our business, or how it handles rebuttals and objections, I'm able to do that here. And so just as an example, we're going to go here and I'm going to grab a scrape of our URL. So I'm going to scrape this URL. And so what's happening here is we're actually going to go scrape the URL, and then we're going to go grab the information from your website. And then we're going to turn that into a file, and then we're going to vector store it. So we basically turn any file you upload here, any URL you scrape, any text that you give us, and we're going to turn it into basically numbers that we're going to give the AI for it to reference for correlation on those things. So you're able to, they can fine tune, kind of train the way the AI responds to certain queries that you want to be a little bit more deterministic rather than AI generated, i.e. FAQs, objection handling, things like that. So calendars, while they're moving to the assistance and invoice, they are currently in assistance. Right now for booking, they'll sit in this knowledge base, this referenceable knowledge base. And so I'll go ahead and sync my calendars here. Okay. And so the one I'm going to use just for this test is the testing calendar. So I'm going to choose this one to tell the assistant, this is the calendar that I want you to use. This is the calendar I want you to pull available times from. This is the calendar I want you to book the appointment to as you come up to that in the sales process. This is the calendar that you will use. And so now under the knowledge base, we have just a little bit of data. And in fact, you really don't need anything here to make this very actionable. This is just if you want to fine tune the responses, give it a little bit more context around your sales process. And then we've connected our calendar and it's in use. We've chosen the calendar that we want. It's in use. So we are good to go on knowledge. You can get as crazy as you want with this. You can add as much as you want. You can not have anything at all. As long as your calendar is connected in here, you're good to go. So I'm going to just change the name of this one just so I can reference it because I already have one that's named this. So now we have our knowledge base. We have data sources connected. We have our calendar configured inside of our knowledge base. We're ready to go. And so now I'm going to move to assistants. And these are just folders. So what you'll see is you'll see kind of a blank canvas here. And we're going to create a new assistant. I'm going to start with multi-chat. And I'm going to start with a blank canvas. And I'll give you prompts and the goal stages to use for a pretty simple booking assistant. So I always recommend that maybe you start with a blank slate too. And we'll go ahead and click into configure here. Now, internal name is not, this is not something the assistant will necessarily reference in the conversation. This is just for the use case of like, right, if you have multiple assistants doing multiple things, you're testing different things. These are just the names that'll pop up here for your personal reference, for your internal reference. And so I'll call this one testing chat setup. Now, you can select the language here. English is what I'm going to be using. I'm going to use a casual personality, a casual framework of response. I'm going to give this thing a name. So I'm going to call this one Josh. Down here, assistant tools. So without setting up any assistant tools, this is basically just a chatbot, right? Like we're talking back and forth, with some determination of a flow in a conversation. But if we want this thing to actually do stuff, we want this thing to book appointments, we want it to do stuff in the CRM, we'll add some assistant tools. Now, I always add all of these because I don't mind. In fact, we found it very efficient in our business, at least, for it to manage these different things. And while we're here, I guess we can kind of go over them too. So you have a suite of assistant tools. These are things that the assistant can do during a conversation, either autonomously or deterministically. So either it's going to do it on its own because it knows it needs to, or you can tell it to do these things. And so with this first one, this calendar management, this is actually just this one alone is kind of made up of multiple things it can do. And to kind of just visualize this, I'm just open this up here. So this calendar management tool allows the assistant to get available appointment times from your calendar, to be able to book said available appointment time to the calendar, reschedule appointments, cancel appointments, and then also get the contact's current appointments. And so enabling this one tool allows your assistant to do all of these things here, again, either autonomously or deterministically. And the use cases for something is, traditionally, get appointment times, book an appointment. That's your booking bot. But however, if a lead comes back later and wants to reschedule it, this gives the assistant the ability to do so. If a lead requests a cancellation of that appointment, this gives the assistant the ability to do so that you don't have to step in for that use case. And then again, if maybe you have a post-appointment qualification process where they book an appointment and then you qualify, this gives the assistant the ability to look at their current appointments, see that they already have one, and be able to use that in the conversation to say, well, I don't have to book you again. You already have one. Did you want to reschedule that one, or did you want to continue with that one, etc.? So that's this first tool here. The second one is creating tasks. And so this is just made up of one here. But what this allows the assistant to do is dynamically in the conversation, whether it be action items or whether you're deterministically telling it to create tasks for you in your GoHighLevel CRM. And so as a use case or as an example, if I'm talking with the AI and I'm like, hey, we're at the point of booking an appointment, and I say, hey, AI, can you tell the team that on our appointment on Saturday, can they check my subscription beforehand so they can let me know how much usage I have left or how I can upgrade, et cetera, et cetera. So an action item, the assistant will actually go out and create a task inside of GoHighLevel, assigned to my specific contact as the lead, to say, hey, Jordan wanted you to check his subscription before the meeting, and it'll actually dynamically set the time on the task. The same thing with notes. So if something comes up, for example, I have a peanut allergy, the assistant will take that note down and give it, again, what the correlation of the time is, it'll be able to set that time dynamically. So if I have an appointment booked on Saturday at 9 and I say, hey, check this before my appointment, it'll actually schedule this task as a deadline at 8:30 on Saturday, right before the appointment. So it's able to kind of dynamically and autonomously do these things here. And you can also tell it to. The self-scheduling, the use case of if you're ever talking to an AI or any situation where you talk to a chatbot and you're like, hey, I'm on the road, I'm busy, can you text me in like 30 minutes? Or I'm in a meeting, text me in an hour. Or I can't talk today, I'm in the hospital, text me tomorrow. What this tool allows the assistant to do is autonomously kind of schedule itself based on the conversation. So if I'm for example, hey, I can't talk right now, text me in 30 minutes, the assistant will say, okay, great, and it will actually schedule itself to reach back out in 30 minutes from the time that inquiry came in. And so this one's really good for mitigating those use cases of, again, traditional chatbots not being able to follow through on things that they said that they can do. Like I'll text you back in 30 minutes, or I'll text you tomorrow. This gives it the ability to do it. And then this one here, this email access, I get a lot of questions about this one, is what is email access like? What does this entail? And so the use case of this is, for example, you may have a lead, or even a current customer that this assistant's talking with, and say the lead is like, can you send me more info? I'm not ready to buy, I'm not ready to book, but can you send me more info? This allows the assistant to dynamically craft an email based on the conversation and based on the task at hand, and use email as an additional touch point. So if I'm texting the assistant back and forth, and we're using SMS as a channel, and I'm like, yeah, were you able to send me, can you send me more information about your company before we book, or something like that? The assistant will kind of take that as, an autonomous way to hit another touch point and send them an email to craft up a nice email with a nice subject line relevant to the conversation, and actually send them an email. And then these, are pretty self-explanatory. Enrolling in workflows, adding and removing tags, info extraction. These give the assistant the ability to do these things with your instructions. So enroll in workflow, unqualified lead if they're unqualified. And if I can differentiate, again, we're spending a little bit more time on this, but these are more autonomous. So you don't have to tell it to do these things up here. It'll actually just it'll do them. These require some sort of input, right? Like enroll in workflow, it needs to know what workflow, or add and remove tag, it needs to know what tag to add or remove. And info extraction, it needs to know, what information to extract. So these are more active, involved type tools. I enable them all, but you can pick and choose which one you want to select it. I think for our use case, these kind of fit the bill for everything I'd like this to manage. We actually don't use human involvement at all in our sales process, and it's usually because of this suite of tools. And there's some advanced settings in here, just to kind of cover this while we're here. If you click on advanced settings, you'll see that it says speak while completing a task. And, here in the beginning, it's, what does that mean? Well, when it goes out and does these things, it's actually going to do them, right? Like this is a reactive type AI. Like when it books an appointment, it doesn't just book the appointment and la-di-da. It actually waits for the confirmation of the appointment being booked before it goes back and say, I have your appointment scheduled. So, for example, if an appointment wasn't scheduled for whatever reason, it's fully self-aware of the outcome of its actions. And I'm saying all that to preface that when it does these things, just like a human, it needs to actually go out and do them. So there's a tiny bit of latency rather than just getting an instant response, for that reactive type framework. And so what we can do to not only make this thing seem a little bit more human, to differentiate a little bit more in this conversation, and to break up that latency, is we can add interim messages. So, for example, if I click on this one, so I have this where it's going to go get appointment times, I can set some variations of messages for it to send while it goes and gets the appointment time. One, to break up the latency, but two, to also seem a little bit more human. So it's double texting, it's triple texting, it's doing these different things while it's talking to my leads and my customers. So I can go here and I can say, 1 second while I check our calendar. Stand by. Or I can say, let me see what we have available. 1 sec, please. I can even kind of throw in some more casual language here. And I think that should be fine. We'll just use those two variations. You can add as many as you want. It'll be randomly selected every time, so it's not as deterministic. And then I'll do one for booked an appointment. So let me lock that in for you. 1 moment. And I can say, awesome. 1 second. While I book that, stand by. Okay. So I have a couple variations of some interim messages that I'll send while the assistant goes and does these things. So that's advanced settings. So that's this first page. That's our assistant tools, and that's the advanced settings for those who want to use them. Not required, only if you want to. And so what we'll do now is we'll move to the integration section. There's nothing you really need to do here. Again, calendars are sitting in knowledge base right now. We're not going to do anything complicated where we would want some sort of webhook on the back half of it. And we don't really need to fetch data on the start, even when that is pushed live. So we go into behavior. So this is where what we'll be able to do is connect that knowledge base that we made here, assistable testing, and set our queuing time. So we can set dynamically how long we want this thing to respond. So if you want yours to seem a little bit more human, you may want a little bit more queuing time. Some people do 60 seconds just to completely mitigate. The whole idea is to make it seem a little bit more human, right? So you can dynamically set this by seconds of how long this thing will wait before it actually processes and sends a response. Now for testing, I'm going to set this to 0. Most people set this anywhere from 15 to 60, depending on their preferences. And again, we're going really easy here, so we won't get into anything crazy. And by the way, you saw the vector store ID, which is all that embedding that we did here, now connected to the assistant. We won't get into anything crazy here, but you have a couple settings that you can turn on, again, for your use case, but we won't bother with it right now. We'll move into context here, and we'll tell the assistant, again, just a little bit more context as it goes through talking with the contact, with the user, about who it is, what it does, and who it works for, just so it has that additional context intermittently in the conversation. So for this use case, it's just going to be a sales rep. And the purpose is just going to be to qualify and book appointments with the user. And as we kind of go through here, this framework of prompting, there's a cadence to how AI understands, like frameworks of conversations. Like for me and you as humans, we understand it's me as the sales rep, and then we have the contact. The AI in general doesn't really, it understands that, but it's not intuitive to the assistant. So the framework that we always want to use when we talk to this, when we prompt it, when we tell it its purpose, is it knows user, and user is the contact that it'll be talking with. So that to the assistant is user, and as reference here, as I'm on that, is AI doesn't know users; it just knows the one instance of the conversation. It's very, I wouldn't say one-dimensional because it's not, but as in the conversation, it just knows that conversation at that point in time. So anytime I go through and prompt this thing, create it, I always reference just user, not users like qualify my leads. I say qualify the user, the person you're talking with right now. And for company overview, we're just gonna do a scrape of our site, make it really easy on ourselves here. And so this is just going to tell the assistant, hey, here's who you work for, and here's a little bit about us. In case this comes up, in case we didn't, put this in our knowledge base, in case we didn't cover this somewhere else, this is just a little bit about us and what we do. So we'll use this company overview, and then we'll just say, why is this conversation happening? The user is inquiring through Facebook ads or our website to book an appointment. And again, you don't have to go crazy here. You'll notice I seldom really fill this thing out. The less is more with AI. And I'm just giving a little bit of context of why is this happening. Well, the user's inquiring. So just as context, so you know where they came from. They're coming from either a Facebook ad or our website to book an appointment. It's just further context. Context is king in a lot of these things. And what's some important information for the assistant to know? You can use this as a way to tell it things like your like not your calendar availability, but our business is located at this address, or whatever here, just some additional context, some additional information that you may not have covered somewhere else. And what I like to use this for is more for verbiage training. And so I'll say you prefer and always use casual language with no affirmations. You are concise and to the point when replying to the user. All right. So I'm just using this as a way, instead of information about my business, is more information about its personalities. I want it to use casual language. I'm a very casual person. Our whole client acquisition system is very casual, so I want the assistant to kind of follow that cadence. Now, Flow Builder. This is where we dynamically set the stages of a conversation for our assistant to be able to do the things that we need it to do, whether it's qualifying, whether it's booking an appointment, whether it's collecting information. We're able to set smaller sub goals for it to accomplish throughout the conversation, aka a goal to set throughout the conversation, so that we're getting everything complete that it needs to. For example, a sales rep, we probably expect them to qualify. That's a goal of when we hire a human sales rep. Our goal is to have them qualify. Another goal in the back half of that is to book an appointment. With support, the goal is to triage, right? Figure out what the problem is, and then the goal on that is to solve it. Give them a coherent response to their query. And if they didn't get an appropriate response, or we can't find that, then the next goal would be to book an appointment with a support, an active support rep. And that's just kind of the context of goal stages here. So what I'm going to do to make it a little bit easier, and I'll include these in the doc, is I'm just going to put mine in this one. So one that I've already built, and I'll kind of explain the cadence of it too. So if I go here, I'll just use mine. I have 3, but we're just going to use 2 today. You don't have to go crazy with these. AI, less is more. And so what I'll use qualification and book an appointment in mine. So I'm going to add a goal. I'm going to add another goal. And this first one is just going to be qualification. All right. We're just telling the assistant this is your overall goal, is qualification. And then I'm just going to steal this. All right. And so you notice the prompt here, while we're here, is a task-based framework. Any AI that you use, it's not just this one. It's not, one provider or the other. All AI is AI at the end of the day, right? It's all about how you implement and use it. Now, what I always find when you're, using conversational AI, and even try this in ChatGPT next time you use ChatGPT, AI is really they're really good at understanding tasks. They know that's what they're created for, is to serve a human for a task, a specific task that we're doing. And task-based frameworks is a very natural way to walk the assistant through what it should be doing, because this is how it naturally understands things. Is it knows I'm supposed to be doing a task, and then I number here with some conditionals on the back half. I'll explain that, and then we can just go into testing this thing out. Is I'm saying you have a task in front of you, something I need you to do, labeled qualification. And this task is obviously not just one thing. It's not just qualify. There's some things that we need to ask. There's some things we need to do when we qualify. And here's what I expect you to do in the order that I expect you to do it. Right. And this, of course, is going to be dynamic. It's AI. It's going to be able to cater this to the conversation. But me as the creator, me as the system, the be all tell all of this AI, I'm telling it, this is what I expect you to do, and I would prefer you to do it in this way. And it's really good at following this cadence. Again, try it even in ChatGPT. Use this framework, and you'll notice your outputs are significantly better. And so what I'm doing, what I'm doing here is I'm setting out what I need it to ask the user to collect specific information. And so you notice I have 6 things here. So I have, ask them if they're an agency or business that uses GoHighLevel. And I have some conditionals, but we'll come back to that. Number 2, ask them how many sub-accounts they manage. Number 3, ask them what niche, what their niche is. Number 4, ask them if they used different solutions in the past. So I'm walking through basically what I would like it to do, what I would like it to ask or inform, or whatever I'd like it to do with the user, aka the contact. Now, on the back half of that, you see these little dashes, which are just conditionals, right? And again, in an AI framework of mind, a task-based framework, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that's what it knows. But we can also set as a cadence here with these dashes, almost as a subset here, right? A subset of a task of conditionals based on this. So I say ask them if they're an agency or business using GoHighLevel. And you may say, well, that's not dynamic enough. I need some stuff to happen here if they're one of those two things or something else. And that's where you can really use conditionals. And so I have two here that says if the user confirms, meaning that they are a GoHighLevel agency here, go ahead and just move on to the next thing. And this other one is just saying, look, if the user does not confirm, that they're this thing, just let them know that all we do is we service GoHighLevel. We don't do Service Titan or HubSpot. So if they say we're not using HighLevel, then we really, we can't help them unless they move to GoHighLevel. And so that's how we're able to set conditionals. I have a lot of questions about, if I were to do something like this, but if someone makes less than 10K a month, I really can't work with them. This is how you'd set that parameter. It's just say, ask them how much money they're doing per month. And if the user says they're doing above 10K, move on, go to step 2. And if the user says I do less than 10K, let's end the qualification process. So moving on from that framework, again, we won't get too crazy. There's some things you can do here, but we just want a basic qualification and booking. While we're here, before we just finish up the booking, because it sits in a similar framework, you notice that I'm calling a function, which I'll include a list here. While those things that we talked about, like creating notes, creating tasks, booking an appointment, those things are done autonomously. You don't have to necessarily tell it to do those things. You don't have to call them out. I get some people who say my AI is not doing it exactly how I want them to do it or when I want them to do it, right? And so we're able to dynamically tell the AI to do a specific thing by saying, call the function, create note, or call the function, create task, or call the function, send email. And so we can directly call out those autonomous tasks to have it do them just here in our task-based framework. So, as for an example, it looked for significant information to create a note. But, I want it to create a note of all these answers. And I don't want it to do it in one. I want separate notes so that, if the user ghosts, I can see where they were in the qualification process, right? And so what I'll do is I'll have it, I say, make a note of the user's answers using the function create note. That's all you need to tell it. For example, something like note or task. And again, I can give you a framework of those. And don't rack your head, again, worrying about that. The AI is pretty good at handling that itself. But if you're getting in a more, more advanced use case, using stuff like function callouts, whether it's voice or chat, really allow you to take your AI to the next level. All right. So our persistence level, I'm just going to say, hi, I really want this to do this thing. And again, these other things, we're not going to worry about. We're keeping it simple here, right? And so I'm going to move to this next thing, which is just appointment booking. And then I have this, I call it the old reliable. It's a task-based framework to book an appointment. Now, with, some people have specific things that they do in their process. Like some people are very, accommodating as far as time zone and things like that. I always call this one old reliable. I've booked thousands of meetings with this one with a 0% error rate. I've never had it break ever. I keep it real simple. I kiss it. For the AI, I kiss it, right? I keep it simple, stupid. Because I want the AI just to focus on the one thing and the one thing only, right? While being accommodating, this thing will be, I want it to do what I want it to do. And I want it to do it reliably. So this is the one I call reliable. This is the one I give to everyone, for booking appointments with very, very, very low error rate. So we have our 2 steps in here, which is just qualify the lead, book the appointment. I'm going to go ahead and save that. So easy enough. So we've walked through the full configuration. We have some even advanced settings here. We have our behavior set. We're going to do a 0 queue just for testing, so it's really fast. We have our knowledge base set up so it can reference our calendar and also reference the information we put in there. We've given it some context about why, where, what, how, who we work for, and who it is, just so the overarching personality of this thing can conform to this information. And then we've given it some goals to accomplish because this is going to be my sales assistant, right? We've given it some goals to accomplish while it's talking to a contact, a user, aka a lead. And so that's really all we have to do here. And so now I'm just going to move. We have our knowledge base set up. We have our assistant set up. And then the question is, how do we get this into GoHighLevel? How do I set up the workflow to make this thing work? Super easy. With our listener, you don't need workflows to make this thing work, to talk back and forth. it's just going to do it on its own. However, you notice in this conversation tab, for example, I have this one that we were playing around with earlier. There's no AI active on this contact. So no AI active here. However, it's still collecting conversation data. And to kind of set the framework of, the active tag is our system will always collect inbound, outbound messages from your account. And the question is why? Is permanent conversation continuity. So the assistants can always dynamically either carry the sales process or support process or whatever process you're taking here, the customer lifetime or the life cycle, from sales to support to success, it always has a permanent conversation memory of everything that's been said and who said it and what's been done up until that point. So you never lose context. So you never run into that problem of an AI trying to requalify a lead, even if it is just a DBR. It remembers. And also this allows it to be dynamic when you're sending things out manually, when you have workflows sending things out, that all of that is still stored here so that it can reference all of that and even take over the conversation with that cadence. It's going to try to mirror that cadence. So at DBR, you're sending out a workflow DBR, which is just a database reactivation for those who don't know. And you're sending out all these messages. You're doing a campaign. The AI is going to collect every single one of those messages and learn from it. And also when the lead responds, even if it's after 15 messages here and they respond, now the AI, rather than being in the dark trying to respond to this random one message, it has full context to understand the campaign that happened beforehand, the message that came from the lead based off of that campaign, so that it can customize those goals that you've given it based on the context of the conversation. And so what the tag allows us to do is when we have a tag on, is it tells the assistant you are good to go to talk to this person. Otherwise, it's just going to sit and listen, right? So no active tag. It didn't reply. There's no AI tag on this one. It's just listening. It's learning and listening. But what the tag does is when there's an AI tag on this contact, on any of these contacts, it says you are good to go. I'm going to allow you to talk to this contact. You're good to go. So now you don't run into the problems of AI trying to talk to everyone when you don't want it to, or one sales AI talking to current customers and your support AI talking to leads, right? You can use tags dynamically, not only for business functions, but also throughout the conversation to throw them in or out. And again, without getting too crazy into it, just as the context, right? And so if I go here, I'm going to create an active tag. So I have a new active tag here. And I'm going to say testing chat assistant creation, right? It's going to ask me which one do I want to use for this. And I'm going to use the new one that we created. And then I need to assign a tag. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say assistant testing setup activation. I usually do these really unique because I usually have a few deployed at the same time. So assistant setup activation test. I'm going to add that tag. All right, and so this was automatically pushed to high level for me, so you don't have to add it in high level and then add it in here. We'll just automatically do that for you. And I always recommend you do these in a unique fashion here. So let me save these changes. You do a unique tag, just so one, that you can differentiate the two and you don't have any tag overlay, which we account for, but in some instances you may have a tag that's deep in your client acquisition system. You try to add it here, and we have to take it out and then re-add it back in, which could take it out of your workflow. So I always do a unique one. So let's go ahead and grab this here. And so we're going to start from a raw contact. So I'm going to pull up just this number here. I'm going to delete it, which is just my contact. And so a high level loads there. I'm going to refresh the page, make sure that contact got deleted. Okay. I'm going to refresh, make sure everything gets deleted, because we're going to start completely from scratch. And we're going to kind of role play, what is an opt-in or a Facebook lead. All right, so no more number. So we have just a scenario. We have a lead here, which is me. And this lead opted in on Facebook, right? Probably the email here. Say flow build. Okay. So this lead is now opted in through Facebook, right? They've gone through Facebook. They're now on our high level. So now what? So you probably have an automation on the back half to already do those things. And the only thing you really need to do, again, is just to add the tag. This tag that we created earlier, you see it's already in high level. I can just add this tag on. And so now, off the back half of my campaign from my Facebook stuff, when the lead responds, the assistant knows I can take that. They've let me know because they have my tag. I can take this. And so now dynamically through your client acquisition system, you don't have to add crazy, bot activate, bot, send bot response, things like that. You can just say, add the tag. Just add the tag, right? And so we'll just simulate, hey, Jordan, this is Josh from the AI company. So you submitted a lead form for actionable AI in your business. What caught your eye? Right? So this would traditionally be sent by, I'm sure you're doing, even if it's, outbound stuff, a campaign, or if it's inbound, whether it's a form on your website, a form through Facebook, whatever it is here, right? I'm sure you have some sort of already, automated message that's going out. And if not, you probably should. But this is just setting the framework for this, the workflows. Your client acquisition system doesn't have to change for this AI to help out with it. And so we have this workflow, quote unquote, right? Send out this text message to this person here. And so now if we go into the AI builder, we notice that this has come through. So this new lead that came from quote unquote Facebook, all their info is now in here. And we can notice that it's, was sent by a workflow or a human because it's blue here. And we notice a little human thing here. And we can even look in the server logs and see, message added. And if you look at that, you see before when I did this, there was no active tag, meaning AI was not on this contact at all. But this one does have a tag on it, right? With an outbound message. So it's like, okay, I'm geared up. I know I'm a part of this conversation now. So when this person responds, I'm in. And so if I come back and I say, I don't know, looked easy to set up. Let me send that real quick. Just as the lead, right? And again, just as a role-playing scenarios, Facebook comes in, they reply. You'll notice because it has this, tag on it, the AI is going to take it. And so now we have the AI coming in. And you already noticed the casual language, and you notice the difference between a workflow or human sent message and an AI sent message. One, this is a gradient, that's blue. This has some analytics on top of it, what model was used, how long it took from the time that this message came in to the time it sent it out, and then what assistant was on it with some training attached. So you already see it starting to follow our cadence here, right? So this is our testing one. You already see it following our cadence of asking if it's, a business or agency that uses GoHighLevel. I'm going to say yes, I use high level. And then you'll start to see it fall in line with the flow, right? And so just as like a reference, that AI, even though it's, this video is probably going to end up being 40, 50 minutes or so long, and you can speed it up 2x and get just as much value out of it, right? And I'll have a document attached on the back half of this, so you can just read through it if you want to. It's super, super easy in that fact to go through and be able to create AI that's actionable. That literally, especially if you have it templated, it would take 5 minutes to set this whole thing up and already have this assistant, doing exactly what I need it to do, right? In a very casual way. These aren't super long bot responses. These are very good, very human-esque responses. So over here, I'll say 7. And then we get full analytics here on what's happening on these fully transparent server logs. So you're able to see everything that happens from the fact of processing. So you can either do diagnostics if you're testing and something's not doing exactly what you need it to, right? But you also notice it start to perform the tasks that I've told it to. So I said, once someone tells us how many sub accounts, make a note of it. And so you see the assistant, when it responded, it went out and it created a note. And it went in here and it says, Jordan manages 7 sub accounts. And you're like, well, where is this note stored? This is stored in the GoHighLevel contact. So if I go here, I notice the conversation going on here. And I go to notes. Jordan manages 7 sub accounts. The AI has done that all on its own. Even though I called the function specifically there because I wanted it to, be able to leave that information one by one. You don't have to, do any workflows or anything. Like what you've seen in this whole setup, we use 0 workflows to make this thing work. There's nothing on the back end with workflows to make this happen. Everything you've seen here is how this thing is working. So it says, awesome, what's your niche? Let's say roofing. Let's get a little fun in here. And so I'm sure at this point, again, it's a little longer than I wanted to make it, but I did want to go in depth on some of this stuff just to answer some questions that may come up. But I hope this is helpful in kind of understanding the cadence of building. These things are really easy to build. And again, some people, they get real crazy with it and you don't need to. Like I always say with AI, less is 100% going to be more with AI, just in any applicable use case, not just this platform, not XYZ platform, not ChatGPT, but all of them. It's just how AI thinks. It's like a human. The less you give it, the better they are. They don't get overwhelmed. And so you see we created another note. Jordan's niche is roofing. All right. Have you used different solutions in the past? Nope. So no here. And again, you'll always know. So, and I'll show you this when we start to get into the booking phase of this. You'll always know what the assistant is doing because it'll tell you what it's doing, right? I performed a task. What task? I created a note. And if you open it up, you'll be able to see what exactly it did. So for example, the assistant left a note, funny enough, to say, I created a note and this is the note I left. All right, so it says, thanks for sharing that. Would you be open? Sure. And again, following the cadence of that task-based framework, you see it left another note here. And you could see, again, just from very minimal prompting, like again, a 5-minute setup, we can get our AI to sound very, very human, have a human-like cadence, do human-like things very, very easily. A little to no setup. And again, the verbiage here is very good. We do a lot of fine-tuning on verbiage. So this is, very short, sweet responses, very good, very human-like responses. And so let's get a call scheduled. Let's say any time works. Can you do Sunday? Because today's Friday. And so I'll give you an example here while it goes out and it looks for its available time slots on your calendar. So again, it goes out and does all these things on its own. And you'll be able to see, not only what it's doing, but what it's also seeing and what it's getting just for triage. And here's an example of that interim message. So let me see what I have available. 1 second, please. Again, making it seem a little bit more human while it does this thing. And so here we are. Here's the cadence of that reply. So can you do Sunday? Let me see what we have available. 1 second, please. It went out and it did something. And when it looked at my high-level calendar, it's setting its time zone, UTC -4, my American New York. Here's his availability all the way through, right? And with this availability, it's able to dynamically speak about it. So for example, I asked about Sunday here. I said, we don't have anything open on Sunday. How about we do it Monday instead? We've got time starting from 8. What works best for you? Let's see, can you do lunch? And you can already see, again, simple setup. I'll drop these flows because it's just 2. I only needed 2 to have this thing be able to walk a lead from, workflow sent out from Facebook, lead form, whatever on website, qualify them, leave that information in the CRM, and then dynamically book the appointment. And again, you can see how conversational it is. Can you do lunch? Sure. How about 12 or 12:30? 12 is fine. And again, we're not getting real robotic responses like a traditional, AI model. We're getting, very fine-tuned, very short, sweet, human cadence type responses here. And then I asked it in this all reliable just to confirm, right? So I say yes. That's kind of how this cadence works. Again, it's reliable because of the framework that it sits on. Is call it if none's available or anything like that. Circle back through, highlight the importance, confirm, and then book. And so you can see just about in every applicable use case. Again, I've said hundreds and thousands of appointments with different AIs using this framework, and I have yet to have a fail rate. And again, you can see the interim message acting in here. Let me block that off for you 1 moment. Books the appointment. We see book the appointment for 12 with our time zone on Monday. It comes back and says, Awesome. Your appointment is set for Monday at 12 p.m. Thanks for your time. Looking forward to chatting then. And then you notice that we have a workflow that kicks in here. I got you down for Monday. Looking forward to speaking with you then. And then now we can see all the tasks performed while this AI was talking with our lead. We can see the entire response. We can see who said what, when they said it, how they said it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What they done, for example, book an appointment, what they did when they booked an appointment, right? And we can use this for triage. I sometimes get questions about, if it doesn't book an appointment, how do I know what it did wrong? We're very transparent in our server logs and information, so you can just open this up and see, maybe this is wrong. Maybe your location time zone doesn't line up, something like that, right? But very transparent in the data that it's collecting. You can see what it sees here. You're able to use this dynamically throughout the conversation. So we went, with, again, a simple 2-step setup, 5 minutes on any other day, especially if we already knowledge base, because these knowledge bases can be scaled out from lead coming in, qualified, information stored, booked an appointment with confirmation. And so while we're already here, let's have it reschedule. Can you reschedule for Monday at 1? Just to kind of show you the autonomous action of, what I was talking about not only booking the appointment, but rescheduling, canceling, seeing current appointments, things like that. So I'm going to come back. I'm going to say, can you reschedule for Monday at 1? And so the AI is going to go through. Again, it's going to check our available times just to make sure we still have that available, right? So we do have 1. Canceling appointment, rescheduling appointment. Boom. Your appointment is now rescheduled for Monday. So you see it did 3 things. How fun is that? It went and checked the times to make sure it was still available, got that appointment taken care of, and then rescheduled it for Monday at 1. And you see the workflow coming through again, Monday at 1. We can see everything this thing's doing. And so here's the fun part. So I'm going to say, so you can see it live, can you create a task to let the know, and again, I'm going to call these out specifically, but just to show you it, multi-threading these things, can you create a task to let the team know? Jordan said, I can have a 7-day free trial. Can you also make a note letting them know I told you this? And can you send me an email confirming the task and a summary of the conversation? So I've asked it to do a lot of things there. And again, calling those out specifically, but dynamically, there might be a situation where you have a lead, wants you to do a lot of stuff like that, right? And we'll see how reactive the AI is in processing what it is, those autonomous actions, in not only a response to this, right? But you can see it doing stuff here. So it created a note, sent an email, and then created a task. And then said done, created a task, made a note, sent you an email. So you see it created a note, said Jordan mentioned he can have a 7-day free trial. Send an email here to me. I'll show you the email on my Gmail here shortly. And then it created a task here. Notify the team. Okay. So call it a day there. That gets your AI set up in a pretty tangible way, pretty easy way, right? Setting up a knowledge base. Put some knowledge in there if you want to. You do not have to do this. But connect your calendar, sync the calendars, use the one you want. Create your assistant. I'll include those prompts that I have inside a Google Doc where you can just fill out the task base for the qualifying with your questions, and you can just keep the booking as it is, and it should get you taken care of. It's old reliable. And then we just set up an active tag. We added that tag onto the contact for our client acquisition system, and we're good to go. You saw the conversation all handled here. You saw it, do the autonomous actions. You saw it do the non-autonomous actions. For example, I told it to create notes. You see the responses follow the cadence that I've given it, and you see how reactive it is. And I know this is a 50-minute video. Put it on 2x, make it a 25-minute video. But in under 5 minutes, you can get an AI set up A to Z to be able to qualify, book leads for support, be able to answer queries, book support appointments, or even customer success. Whatever use case you have, easy to do. Thanks so much.